bring the commission back
I
to
gotta
order.
go back and he's just.
You ready, Suzanne? Next item on the agenda is Commission Regulation 10-01, Heritage Committee Vendor Recommendations. And I'm going to have Vice Chair Rain read those.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee discussed this at great length and came up with what we perceived as a fair distribution across the board. Gave our 4 most premium tags were each given to a separate vendor this year. We did have one variation that I should mention. There was one application that was slightly late, Mule Deer Foundation, and we did accept one tag from them. We give them one tag. That was under Mule Deer. We voted to give Mule Deer Foundation one tag, SCI Northern Nevada Chapter one tag. Pronghorn Antelope, there were 2, Pershing County Chuckers Unlimited, and Nevada Waterfowl Association with suggestions. Rocky Mountain Elk, NBU Reno Chapter, and SCI of Northern Nevada Chapter were the 2 recipients that were recommended. Nelson Bighorn Sheep was to go to the Wild Sheep Foundation, not to be confused with the next recipient, which was of the California Bighorn Sheep, who is the Wild Sheep Foundation Midwest Chapter. Wild Turkey, there were originally 5 applicants, but one of them was determined that their convention was going to be after the turkey season, so we deemed them ineligible, and that was the no, on the turkey, that was the Ruby Mountain Chapter. And therefore, we went with the suggestions for the 5 wild turkey tags as the National Wild Turkey Federation Las Vegas Strutters for 2 tags, National Wild Turkey Federation Silver Sage Chapter, SCI Northern Nevada Chapter, and we ended up giving them 2 tags. Originally, they'd asked for 1. First, we offered it to Nevada Bighorns Unlimited Reno Chapter. They said they were not interested at all in receiving a turkey tag in addition to a elk tag. But Safari Club International Northern Nevada Chapter said they would be very happy to receive that, so we sent 2 to them. And that was the recommendations of the committee, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And that's reflected in the handout, I think, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone have any question on that now before I turn it over to public? Anyone have any questions now? Let's turn that over to any of the cabs have a report or any of the public comment. We'll put them in both into one here. Anyone?
We've got a couple.
Speak to that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First, we had several people. First would be Jeremy Drew, followed by George Corner.
For the record, Jeremy Drew, Northern Nevada Chapter, Safari Club International. I would like to start off by saying we appreciate the committee's recommendation and trust that we could adequately represent these tags. However, given the way the funds have been allocated today, particularly with potential for some illegitimate activities, and particularly because the county advisory boards do not have adequate time to be represented here today, I would like to rescind our request to be a vendor for any tags. Any questions?
So what you're saying is, what tags are we talking about?
That would be 1 mule deer, 1 elk, and 2 wild turkey.
And 2 what?
Wild turkey.
You didn't get any wild turkey, did you?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we got 2.
2, in fact.
You must be looking at the wrong one.
Fair enough.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
George Corner. Followed by
I didn't get that.
Paul Dixon, I believe, had
I thought this was-
card?
George Pointer, and I'm going to not make any comments at this time. I was on there if necessary, and I believe there's
Okay.
going to be plenty of comment.
Did not state here, but Paul Dixon or Candido Mendive after him, if you had a comment on this? No?
Reserve on it for a second.
You got a card, perhaps? That was all the cards I had then on this item?
May I speak on public comment?
Refer to the chairman.
What's that?
There was somebody that did not have a card, was speaking.
Sure, sure, go ahead. Fill out a card before you leave.
I will, thank you. Chairman Lent and Commission, Judy Karen for the record, representing myself. I attended the Washoe County Advisory Board meeting, and I support the recommendations that their board came forward with. I have a question today concerning the mule deer tag that was awarded to an organization that I did not see their application on the website. And with a deadline date stated in Commission Policy 10, that all applicants for tags will be submitted by the third Monday in April, I'm wondering where that came from. Because it says the commission also will review the vendors at this meeting. If someone could answer that for me, please.
Question answer. Right. Yeah.
No answer?
I will repeat the question.
Okay. Chairman Lent, when you attended the Washoe County Advisory Board meeting, the same as I did, the Washoe County Advisory Board had the applications of the vendors that had submitted their applications according to Policy 10 prior to the third Monday in April for the deadline date for applicants. And there's a awarding recommendation here to a sports organization that I did not see in the application support material for the Heritage Subcommittee. And I'm wondering how we're awarding a tag to someone who did not meet the deadline date for an applicant.
Say it the way it is. You're talking about the mule deer.
Yes, it is. I guess that is, because that's the one I don't have a support
Yeah.
material on. So how are they getting a tag if they didn't follow the procedure of Commission Policy 10 to have the application submitted before the third Monday in April? How are we awarding a tag?
They submitted it 2 weeks late, and that's a policy, and we were told that we could consider them as any late applications, and we did.
So that's the committee?
The committee.
Committee of the three subcommittee, or the three members of the committee, not the full commission that
Right.
decided to accept that application.
Right.
Well, I just say I'm against accepting a late application because we did have 4 groups that requested the mule deer, and I don't think that's something that we should do at this time. We should follow Policy 10.
Thank you.
Thank you.
These are the groups that wanted
And the motion just awarded to somebody else?
it. Wait a minute. Go ahead.
Glenn Copeland, Washoe County Advisory Board. At our meeting, which was actually not too long ago, we did not have any recommendation from the Mule Deer Foundation either. Obviously, it was a late entry, and if I remember right, over the past few years, this is not the first time that the Mule Deer Foundation has submitted a late entry. So we felt, well, obviously, we didn't even know they applied, so we were in favor of giving the other mule deer tag to NBU. And then also on the California bighorn sheep, we were in favor of giving that to NBU. We know that SCI Midwest chapter, we did get a letter, we read the letter, but they really didn't. Yeah, the Wild Sheep Foundation Midwest chapter. They really didn't explain anything about their meeting. They didn't say how many people attended, if they sold these tags before. It was really kind of vague, so we didn't have a whole lot of information to go by. It's the first time we ever seen that. So we were more in favor of giving that tag to MBU as opposed to an organization that we're not real familiar with.
Thank you.
That was all the cards I had. There were, I don't know, a couple that did not state. Gil, did you have anything on this? Those are the only cards that didn't say anything.
Anybody else that want to talk on this agenda item?
This agenda item. 23.
For the record, Dan Hill, Pershing County Chuckers Unlimited. Apparently, my card got in the wrong pile. We're here to ask for your consideration for that antelope tag. Just wanted you to.
Oh, yeah, it didn't specify. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
My error.
Thank you.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Clark County Cab. For this agendized item, the support material and the revised agenda came out the day that we had to post our agenda. Therefore, Clark County was unable to give the commission any recommendations on this from a official standpoint. And as I said in my minutes, I will reemphasize, like I have every commission meeting, they're getting the support materials and other stuff out, and the final agenda within the 2-week window would allow us that like to have our agenda and our meeting a little earlier than the other places so we can garner more public opinion would be very helpful. I wanted to put that on the record, Chairman, and since you were the deciding person to put on this as a late agenda item to work on this for this meeting and not have it in the June meeting like we've had in the past. So again, I would ask for your consideration when you're making your agenda and trying to get things. The other thing is this agenda, by adding this, really stacked an agenda way over the top for a county advisory board to deal with when you look at the number of items and huge topics that we had to cover here. And so there were several things that we chose not to give comment on that are important to you and probably at some level important to the people of Southern Nevada, like the main station farm and a few other things we've had on there. We were not able to cover because we have a 3-hour time limit in Vegas that we can hold our meeting to. We're not allowed to hold special session meetings because, as you've all heard, we don't have the budget to have a special session meeting to cover things that are late agendized by you. So I would ask for your serious consideration, as I have every meeting, to get out your agenda items within the 2-week window that the statute says you'll have stuff out, an agenda out. You always put on a draft agenda, but that tends to get revised, and I'd like to see the final agenda 2 weeks and the support material so I can support my meeting, which occurs early in the system, so we garner the most public attention and we can share results with the other cabs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else want to speak on this? If not, I'll close the public hearing in the cabs on this. Let me just take a couple minutes. Can we approve that meal there? If they should make it a policy.
Should you is another
Huh?
story. Should you is a question.
With the we need Commissioner Darrell up there. Mr. Capello?
Yes, sir.
We need, talking to the Attorney General, the reason we put the mule deer is because in 2009, the Mule Deer Foundation generated $47,500 for the deer tag, and the Mule Deer Foundation in 2008 generated $65,000, and they've had a good history of raising money. And in 2007, the Mule Deer Foundation generated $50,000 for the tag, and the Mule Deer Foundation in 2006 generated $65,000 for the tag, and so they looked like they were a good vendor. And so even though the policy said that, we deviated from that because we're trying to maximize the amount of money we can get for the department, and they were a good vendor. So I would still say we should still keep them, even though they were late. And with the committee, we said a strong message out to them, they got to get it in time like everybody else did. And that's why we took the mule deer, except them late, because of the amount of money they generate and the interest on it, and which we can do. Commissioner Capurro.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Both Pete Mora and I we're not on the
Heritage Committee, but we were at the committee, and there was quite a bit of discussion on that from the committee members about why was this late. Could they even accept it in that? So there was quite a bit of discussion, and my recollection of what was indicated to us was that even though there is a deadline, that was strictly up to the commission to decide whether or not to accept it. And then based upon the information that was provided in the past, as far as the money that they've raised, I agree. I think a deadline should be a deadline. And I think we need to emphasize that for next time. But there apparently, as I understood it, there were some extenuating circumstances which caused them to have that in late. They had intended to make that request, and it simply didn't get in on time. That's my recollection of it. Pete, I don't know what yours was.
Yes. And for the good, we figured it'd bring more money than from their past history. They'd maximize the revenue we'd get for that tag more than anyone else, so that's why we picked them for one tag. It's probably not the proper thing to do, but for the department, I think it's a proper thing to do. And then we made it with strongly that when they get notified that, we're not going to happen again, they've got to submit on time with everybody else. But that's why we did it from a late vendor. And I don't think the department had any input on that. Let's see now. So what we have to do is what we can do is we can reallocate these tags to somebody and then send a letter out to them and see if they want them. And that's probably the best way to do if we want to, as a commission, we can vote on an alternate vendor for those. Like, for example, the deer tag. Wynn wanted a deer tag this year, and they didn't do the turkey last year because the season was the season was before they had their convention, and they had a pretty good turnout, but they just couldn't take the tag, turkey tag, and so that was
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Rain first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would be my preference perhaps on this would be take this into two sections. One would be to vote upon the remaining committee items and see if that see if the committee's recommendations, striking SCI Northern Nevada chapter from recommendations, see if that goes, and if then proceed with the vacancies, or we could proceed with those 4 vacant slots now, and then, those are the 4 vacant slots. I kind of like to take them separate from the rest of the
Whatever you want to
pile.
do. If you want to do, Commissioner Capero?
What I'd like to do is go through, frankly, species by species, and have you indicate, because I don't have it written down, what vendors had applied for those tags, so we know who to. I don't think we should award it to somebody who had not applied for that particular tag.
Yeah.
So if we took mule deer and
Okay.
what other organizations?
I can read that for you if you want.
You would,
Is that what you want?
Okay.
Okay. For deer, we had Northern Nevada Safari Club. They didn't take it. We had the Mule Deer Foundation, who we recommended at one tag. It was late. We had Silver State Turkey, had Nevada Bighorns, and we had Wynn. And for the other one, on the elk, we had Northern Nevada Safari Club, which didn't take it. Mule Deer Foundation asked for it. Silver State Turkey, and Nevada Bighorns Reno, and we gave them one. And for the turkeys, we had Northern Nevada Safari Club. We gave 2 of them 2. They didn't take it. We had Silver State Turkey. Las Vegas Struthers wanted 2. We had Ruby Mountain Safari, and we had NBU Reno, but they refused it.
Could you give me the elk one again, Mr. Chairman?
The elk was Northern Nevada Safari Club, which we awarded to. We had the mule deer, Silver State Turkey, and NBU Reno. Now, let me see if the mule deer historically have gotten one here.
They did last year, I believe. They got 3 tags last year.
No, in 2000, no. 2008, they got a deer, antelope, and turkey.
Make it one.
And they got a turkey and deer the year before.
2010, they got an elk, mule deer.
Excuse me, I missed a page. Yeah, they got an elk for 32,000.
Yeah.
And NBU Reno got an elk for 33,000, about the same.
If I could just, Brett Jefferson with NBU Reno, we did not apply for a heritage turkey tag. You had indicated that we did.
I
Right.
think that was an omission. That's,
No,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I said that we, yeah. What we did is, when, last year, we can ask somebody if they want a turkey tag and, you know, and don't award to them and see if they turn it down or if they want it. And that's what we could do if we wanted to on these. But the elk, from Mule Deer Foundation, NVU Reno were $1,000 different in last year.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I presume that if we pick from those vendors who had already requested this, we could take action today without having to notify them and this sort of thing.
Right.
They already knew what they applied for.
And,
And if you were going to take it species by species, I would have a recommendation if you want to take it. If not,
Okay.
we can.
you have
I'd like to recommend that the mule deer, second mule deer tag be awarded to NBU.
Mr. Chairman?
Was that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Excuse me, Maureen from Nevada Department of Wildlife. Just so for clarification purposes, when you go through the species that have more than one tag, if you're going to replace it, could you tell us which one is being replaced, like the previous vendor, so we can record it accurately?
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm sorry, I'll repeat that.
Take place.
Since SCI Northern Nevada chapter turned down the mule deer tag, I would like to recommend that we award the second, mule deer tag to NBU of Northern Nevada, Reno chapter.
You gonna do the other ones, or?
Doing,
On the rest of the ones, I would recommend that the Rocky Mountain elk, in place of SCI Northern Nevada chapter, that Mule Deer Foundation be awarded the elk tag.
Okay, and what about the 2 turkeys?
I have no recommendations on those.
We had a turkey tag left over last year, too, we didn't auction.
Okay.
Doesn't seem to be a hot item, but, you know.
I'm one second to say, let's make certain, we're going to make those 2 modifications and approve all the other recommendations. Is that? Then I'd second that.
Well, we got 2 more to do, we got 2 more turkey
Oh, we
tags.
want to do turkey.
And we, and the people that applied for them, we got Ruby Mountain Safari.
And they were having their meeting after the season.
Well, that's right, they're just like
That's the
Wynn,
only
so
reason we had to turn them
We
down.
turned them
And
down,
who's the other one?
and we gave 1 to a Silver State Turkey and 2 to Las Vegas Struthers. Now, whether Silver State Turkey would want another one, I don't know.
Could we,
Huh? We already had public comment.
I'll make a clarification on Ruby Mountain. They asked me to speak on their behalf, that the date on their letter was wrong. It should be of 2010. June 26th, 2010 is their banquet date. And I have no other authority to speak on
What is their
anything else
date?
on their behalf. June 26th, 2010.
oh, so they're clear.
So they could.
So the date on the letter was incorrect.
Okay,
They asked me to clarify that.
okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, under those circumstances, I would recommend that we award 1 of the turkey tags to the Ruby Mountain
Chapter
Ruby
SCI.
Mountain
Chapter
Chapter
District.
Safari Cup.
Yes.
And the other one, would, I don't know if Silver State Turkey would want 2 or not.
Offer it first,
I would offer it to them.
Offer it?
first. That'd be my suggestion.
and second choice being,
I don't have a
We
second.
just have to offer it to them and see, you know. Okay, somebody has to make a motion so we can
that
all
was,
understand
he
it.
said that as a motion. I'll second that motion. I think he said I move when he started that. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
I second that motion.
So let me go through and make sure everyone is clear with it here. On the deer, we have one to the Mule Deer Foundation and one to NBU. On the antelope, we have 2 tags, one to Nevada Waterfall and one to Pershing Chucker. On the 2 elk, we have one to NBU Reno and one to Mule Deer. On the desert, we have one for the Wild Sheep Foundation. We have one California Wild Sheep, I think it's the Foundation Midwest Chapter is their new name. We have 5 turkeys, 2 to Las Vegas Struthers, 1 to Ruby Mountain Safari since they changed their date, and then one to another one to Silver State Turkey since I think they only applied for 1, and offer them the other one if they want it. I did, just for the commission's information here, I did talk to, I tried to call most of these vendors, and I did talk to the Wild Sheep Foundation Midwest Chapter, and they're the oldest chapter, 32-year history. They have approximately 370 to 500 people attend.
Does Grant had a comment when you're done, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman? Sorry.
They always get the only one of North Dakota, and I guess it's, I don't know if that's a California, it's probably a Rocky, but they get the only one of North Dakota every year. They auction about 6 sheep every meeting, and they get the Wyoming. They always get one of the Wyoming tags, and they got about, I think, 45,000 for that last time. And they've had the North Dakota and Wyoming for 15 consecutive years. They've donated a sheep trailer to Nevada. I think it's in Elko, somebody said. So they've donated some money to Nevada, and they're anxious to get involved in a tag. We've never given them a tag, and never had a Nevada tag. Nebraska always gives them deer tags, so they have a pretty big event. And I might just make a comment here. There's a new group starting up, Fish and Wildlife group in Utah, and it's Sportsmen's for Fish and Wildlife. And there's a guy from Texas funded it with $6 million. And they got a new group called the Full Curl Club, and Moses Malone, I think, is running that. And they're having a convention in Utah, and they're dealing a lot with wolves. And he said, you're gonna get some requests from us, but they're anticipating 100 to 200,000 people to their convention. Been running 2 years, and I've never heard of it, and I don't know if Director Mayer's heard of it. Have you heard of that new group?
Excuse me?
Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife?
Relatively new group. I don't know much about them at all.
Yeah, they've hired a lot of people, I guess, and
I
they're
don't think I
dealing.
have a track record.
They're dealing mainly with wolves, I guess, and that's one of their big issues, but they're gonna have, he said they're gonna be a lead player in that, and so they'll be requesting tags down the road, you know, and I haven't heard of them, but I thought maybe somebody had. I'll get some information about them. And so, that was the group from the Midwest group. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point here. Okay, Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification, you said Silver State. Did you mean Silver Sage?
Did I say Silver State? Silver Sage, is that the name? Yeah, I'm sorry. I wrote it down wrong. I'm glad you caught that. Okay. Does everyone hear the motion in the second? Anybody got any questions? If not, I'll call for the motion. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Let's go to the next item of